Welcome everybody to Tab BizSense. We are thrilled to be here today with all of you business owners. My name is Blair Koch. I'm the CEO of the Alternative Board here in the Denver West area. And today with us, we have a really phenomenal presenter. We're thrilled to have him, Josh Elledge, CEO of Up My Influence. Josh is a media ninja, for lack of a better word. He's got so much experience and background in media, filling sales funnels, selling over the many years. I can't even do justice for the introduction. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Josh, and he can please fill in anything I left out, which is much on your background, take it over. And this is going to be a highly interactive conversation. So please, raise your hand, use the chat, jump out, and Josh will lead the way. With Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yep. Thank you, Blair. Appreciate that. Yeah. So background wise, I'm originally from West Michigan, was in the U.S. Navy for 5 years as a Navy journalist. Actually, I don't know if anyone has seen Good Morning Vietnam, but Adrian Cronauer, I got to meet the real live Adrian Cronauer, and Adrian Cronauer set me on a course in my life that meeting forever changed the trajectory of my life. I got in because, being a journalist will be fun. It'll be fun. Maybe I could be a DJ. I think that was the extent of, kind of my mission, purpose, and values in and around journalism. And, he really inspired me about the sacred obligation we have to serve audiences, and how, and if you know the story, how he found himself in a position where he had to choose his audience over the chain of command, got in trouble for that. I was really inspired with, not just the, again, the power of platform, but also, again, what we can do with that and the good that we can do in the world. And the fact is that you can't lie to people. You can't lie to audiences. We always have to ask ourselves, am I being authentic in this moment? Because if you're not, or if you feel like you're like, yeah, I'm telling people one thing, but really it's this other thing, people will know. People can tell. Audiences, particularly today in 2021 and beyond, have never been more sophisticated. Have never been, in terms of like their BS detector, has never been higher. So part of, a lot of, what I'm going to be encouraging is, when we think about our marketing and our sales, how that is very much an extension of how we communicate to our audiences. And if you're trying, like, if people can tell that your primary objective in that relationship is that you want to make this sale because you need that commission, or you need that profit, or blah, 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 or you need that metric, like, people will feel it. They may not be able to exactly put their finger on it, but there's going to be something along that's going to be weaved in, or a part of your energy, because we all know that in communication, when it comes to communication, the vast majority of us, 80, 85% of it, is not what you say. It's how you say it. It's the energy behind it. It's the nonverbal. It's the fact that, Josh smiled when he said that thing. So what I ended up getting into, and let me kind of complete my story full cycle, and you'll understand why I'm qualified to talk about what I'm talking about, is that from the Navy, my goal, because I did get to do some radio in the Navy, I then started studying marriage and family therapy because I wanted to be a love doctor on the radio. That never happened, thankfully. I don't know that I would have been great at that, dispensing marital advice. Although my dear wife and I are going to be celebrating 26 years of marriage in, don't tell her, count him, 6 days, the 29th. But I got into internet development, which then led to a string of business startups, the first 6 of which failed in some degree or another. I made some sort of a hasty exit or transitioned into something new. But my 7th business venture became a 6-figure a month company, and that was Savings Angel. And so that business I started because I had no money for marketing, but I did have a desire to serve audiences. So I started reaching out to local radio stations, TV stations, newspapers, magazines, anyone I could. I said, listen, I don't have any money, but here's what I can do. And I can provide this content, and I would love to be of service to your audience. There might be some, kind of maybe come up with some joint venture opportunity between, the publisher or the TV station or the radio station and myself. And so I started doing segments, weekly segments, teaching people how to save money on everything, particularly groceries. And then I would lead them to savingsangel.com, which was our website. And very quickly within, the first year, we definitely had kind of a hockey stick kind of growth, and then extreme couponing came about, and then we really started taking off. But then there was this kind of like, it's like people was like, oh, that was fun, but we're not really into couponing anymore. But I had gotten really good by that time that, things started kind of sliding down a little bit with Savings. I'd already been in the media over 1,500 times. That authority gave me I had been volunteering in my local startup community, got really good at teaching how to get in the media. And then, what ends up happening, and I don't know if anybody does much pro bono work, but when you just start volunteering and providing your skills and serving underserved communities, women-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned businesses, just doing pro bono stuff, like people started saying, well, fellow board members would be like, hey, can I hire you for that? Because you sound like you know what you're talking about. So that then led to Up My Influence, which we just had our 7th year anniversary of Up My Influence launching. Up My Influence for most of our time has been about building authority, growing in your industry, leveraging that authority for more sales. Like, how can because it's one thing to get your name in lights, and that feels good. And, when you share it on Facebook, everyone's like, wow, that's amazing. And, people give you hugs and that sort of thing. And that feels good. But I want to make sure that there's a business justification for anything that we do, particularly in and around, getting on stages or platforms or in front of the cameras or being quoted, et cetera. And funny enough, I really focused, unlike anybody else in PR, I was just like laser focused on, but how do I get sales out of this? Because I want to make sure I've got that business justification for doing that. Now I'm going to lead by giving intense value, and it's going to be all about giving value. And that's really, where that bridge gets connected is show up in an authentic way, give, with all your heart, and then people just trust that audiences are smart. They know how to find me. They know how to find you, right? It's not too difficult for you to Google me right now, and I know what you're going to see. And because I know what you're going to do, and I know what you're going to see, if you are at all interested in, who is this guy? If you're not, you won't do anything. But if you are interested, you probably Google, maybe you're going to be like, oh, what's that? My Influence or something like that. You Google that, you go to the website. So we want to anticipate, and a lot of what I'm going to lead to, I'm starting with the authority stuff, right? And I'm going to pause in just a moment because I know that I dispense more words in a 10-second period than most humans do. That's my Finnish upbringing, by the way. So authority is kind of that foundation. If we don't have that authority, everything in business is so much harder. And we have to anticipate what the average consumer is going to do. So if, let's say that as a business, you're trying to attract 7s, 8s, and 9s in business, right? On a scale from 1 to 10. But yet when we go to your website, it looks like a 2 or 3. It's not that you can't sell those 7s, 8s, and 9s. It's just going to be very difficult. And the reason why is because we always, when we make buying decisions, we want to make sure that we're in the right place. We want to know that other people, we're not dumb, and we're doing what other people like us do. So it's like, you go into a restaurant and you're like, oh, what's really popular? Oh, that featured item that you're selling. That must be what people buy. And so we buy the featured item because it's, they put it in the front of the menu or something like that because we think it's popular. And, again, we don't want to make mistakes. So we look for those those authority indicators, those trust indicators, those social proof indicators that we're in the right place. And what I normally recommend to every business owner is allocate resources toward nothing but authority building. Right. And so if you're independent, if you're a consultant and it's just you and a couple of assistants or whatever, my recommendation would be that you dedicate maybe an hour a week toward what can I do to increase my perceived authority. And I say perceived authority because a lot of times, many of us are actually very competent at what we do. We're just doing a very poor job in communicating that. So you might be a 7, but online, you kind of look like a 2 or 3. And so we want to get that in alignment. And you don't have to stress out that stuff doesn't need to be done in a day, but it does need to be done. It's, again, it's one brick at a time. And we're going to do that over time. Now, so authority is absolutely kind of that first of the 3 pillars that I want to focus on. And it's really important that we begin with that, because if you don't have the authority, everything I'm about to tell you, it's not going to work as well, because what's going to happen is people are going to say, okay, cool, I like this Brooke person or this Dan person, but then they go to check you out and they're like, oh, well, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then they beeline it out of there. And it's not your fault, right? But are there any questions? Because I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on media and authority, but I really want to kind of begin there. And Brooke, when is my, or Blair, I'm sorry, Blair, when is my, I was looking at the wrong person. Blair, when is my hard stop here?
A little bit before 2 o'clock your time.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay, cool.
1 o'clock our time.
Good.
Well, yeah.
Good. So I can stop right here, take a drink, and answer any questions in and around anything having to do with media, authority, or kind of the principles of generally what I've talked about right then.
And as you're taking that sip, I will tell you, all of these businesses here, almost everybody has multiple employees. We have one here who's 300 plus employees. We've got people in the 20, 30 employees. So these are all
perfect. Thank you.
Thriving businesses, and even people who are working with people who are 1099s, still very thriving, growing businesses here.
Yeah, so I love that Bob's got the E-Myth in his background there, because I'm a huge fan of that, right? So as founders, CEOs, our job is what? Our job is to grow the company. And so a lot of times, we have to make tough decisions to get out of, a more operation, kind of tactical, logistical, in the trench. We want to be there. We want to know what's going on. We want to be intimately involved with those processes. But ultimately, we've got the mandate. We have to be, that figurehead, that person that is out there evangelizing on behalf of the change that we want to make in the marketplace. All right. Anything about anything that I've talked about so far? I know it's been a little vague, and I apologize for that, but these are principles that are really, really important to kind of build upon. Going once, going twice.
I guess yes. I've got a question. I mean, I get what you're saying about the, if you're working on this level, your messaging needs to be consistent with that. I guess I'm kind of wondering, is that just, you talked about the website. Obviously that's across the whole platform of what you do social media wise. I'm curious what you think is the most powerful, I guess, single platform. And then are there any things you should focus on and any things you should avoid?
Well, so I'm a huge fan of being where your audience is and not wasting a lot of time where your audience is not, just because for ego purposes. Oh, so-and-so from a marketing department really is insistent that we should be on TikTok. Maybe not. If you're selling energy drinks, yes. If you're selling B2B applications, probably not. It might feel good. It might be good for your ego. So that's the first thing, is make sure, I'm a big fan of going where your audience is already pre-congregated. I'm also a big fan, if we're talking specifically about social media platforms, of not watering down. I'm a big fan of repurposing. But like, let's say that we're like, listen, we are 100% LinkedIn. Like our customers aren't hanging out on Facebook, or they certainly don't want to engage with us on Facebook. So like do the thing with the primary platform in mind, right? And then, intelligently, in a very cost-effective manner. I'm a huge fan of repurposing. Do something one time, which again, when we get to ultimately where I'm going with this, I'm a big fan of video conversations. I'm a big fan of podcasts, but we record them in video because if you can be recording a 20-minute conversation once or twice a week, you have all the content in the world. You pull quotes and video clips and animated things. I mean, you've got the world at your fingertips at that point from a content perspective. You can generate all of your blog content from that. I'm a big fan of most of us, particularly you think of your really smart people within your organization or, you that's at the helm, you have a lot of wisdom that's up here. And a lot of times we might say is, well, I really need to write a book. Well, a great way to write a book is just to start dispensing that wisdom into a video format, get transcription, get that written out into blog articles. And now you can get that into a book format, as well as be repurposing that into micro content and micro content that you would use all on social media. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's absolutely what I advise in terms of when it comes to content. Yes, please.
Take a breath there for a second, Josh. So let's do this because we're a small group here. So everybody, when you bring a question or whatever to the table, take a moment, introduce yourself and what you do. So that way everybody gets to know one another or learn more about each other. And it also gives Josh some additional context to further answer your questions. So Tanner, why don't you do a quick step back and just say what you do?
Sure. So Tanner Mason. So we run a company called Benchmark Commercial Real Estate. So we represent companies with their office and industrial real estate, whether leasing or purchasing, or even selling a building if they need to go find something else. So, LinkedIn is our platform. We do the other things, especially because it's, you post on one, you post them all at the same time, but we were very aware that the other things are more for fun and aren't really going to get as much traction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, LinkedIn is your place, but do keep in mind, and I think if you Google this in terms of the statistics of how many images are uploaded to social media every single day, how many videos are uploaded to YouTube, how many blog articles are published, the people are swimming in an unlimited sea of content. So don't beat yourself up if your engagement's not real great. And that's always kind of a challenge. That's just the way that it is. Most people overvalue the visibility component to what they do, right? Of being seen by new people, right? We hope for that, right? But the reality is I'm much more of a fan of getting on stages, getting in front of cameras, getting your content in front of people from an authority building standpoint. And for those people that are already kind of bridged, kind of stepped into your world a little bit, so they've gotten past that first bump of getting to know you, understanding that, what we want more so that like discovery is cool, but nurturing the relationship and moving the relationship from awareness to now, they were really starting to push on their buttons because we're poking at their needs, we're poking at their pain points. Now we're giving them an excuse to not just logically, come engage with us, but more important than that is we want them to feel like they know us. So I'm a big fan of in sales and marketing is make it insanely easy for people to know your people, you and your people. Because if we have a friendship now, it's so much, that's who we do business with. We always do business with people that we know, like, and trust. And so, on that point, there was a point. Oh, yeah. And that is people don't do business with brands. They don't do business with products and services. People do business with people. At the end of the day, we're all human to human. And so I'm also a huge fan when it comes to content of how can I get them, even if I'm uncomfortable with it, and I always am, but how can I make it ridiculously easy for people to fall in love with me or get to know me, or, really feel like they're getting to know my personality, and sometimes it takes a degree of vulnerability that we're not comfortable with. But that's really where I see a lot of this moving forward a lot faster in terms of like, why are we doing this content? Which again gets to my point of like why I like video, because it's definitely you. It's definitely your face. It's, it's about as intimate as we possibly can get, in a digital, when we're talking pixels.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Anything on all of that? Because that's the first of kind of the three legs of the stool.
Josh, it's Bob Dodge, and
Hi, Bob.
I try to do what Blair does. I'm a project. My question is, all of this seems to make sense if you're in a service business where you're trying to sell yourself. But if you paint houses or you help people buy real estate, it may be more of the product than myself. So how does this apply there?
So I would challenge you on the fact that it is a product, because what you're selling is an experience. The experience, and it's, for example, like we had our house painters, the English painters. Yes. Did we like their product? Yes. Did they, they were roll-on paint rather than spray paint. So for us, that was something that we were, logically, that was our logical reason for buying now. But so there's urban and Lurban, right? So there's logical reasons for buying now, LRBN, and emotional reasons for buying now. Emotional reasons for buying now always are way more valuable. So, great example of that. And I'm going to get, kind of apply this specifically to you in just a moment. Me sitting in an event, and at the time I had a normal run-of-the-mill iPad. And the guy sitting in front of me had an iPad Pro, and it sitting right here now. And it had this really cool $100 pen, right? That allowed you to actually take notes, and here I was using this dumb rubber tipped stylus. It didn't work. All right. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But my brain immediately went to, well, he's probably fairly successful in business. It's a, $700 investment here. I'm successful in business. He's got one. I should have one. Right. And so that's where I went emotionally. And then I'm like, well, I got to back it up logically. So all of that said, what is going to sell that product is UGC, user generated content. It is, a matter of fact, my last interview I did just before I hopped on here was with a guy that did video. He created a software platform, and you could do that. There's a number of solutions out there. But you want to get video content of your customers. Text testimonials are okay, but I would say that's the least most effective. Text plus a photo is better. Video is inarguable, right? Because now I'm seeing someone who say, I don't know, all I know is I heard this Bob guy and these guys, his team, and blah, blah, they came out and they just did a great job and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't have this problem. And I loved the experience, that's what you want. Is then your customer says, wait a minute, they're just like me. They made that decision. They seem smart. I don't know about that accent that fake accent that Josh just did. But that person is like me. And when we look at testimonials, there's two. We always look at attractive members of the opposite sex, and then we look at people like us. That's what we do. And so you want to, you want to fill that in, right? And you want to get great, cross demographic, different age, different gender, different background, different family makeup, try to get one of everyone, right? And put that on your testimonial page. Because if I then, and this is how people buy today, right? And I could tell you for service industry, like if I hire, and forgive me if Josh, I didn't say that, but if it's a house painter, for example, this is how everybody hires house painters today. They get on Facebook, their neighborhood group or whatever, and they say, we need to paint our house. Who do you love? That's it. I would gather that's probably, maybe my view is distorted a little bit, but I would guess it's about how 70% of transactions start, or someone just researches and finds that conversation that's been out there, and that's how it gets done. So in order to do that, again, you're gonna have to get really, really, really good at making the users, the customers, the star of the show. They are the spokesperson. You personally, like, with the English painters, the ones that we used, they made themselves, they had great personality. They felt like they kind of got to know us a little bit more. They cared about, us personally. And boy, did that really go a long way. So there's just some thoughts on that, Bob. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, great. Anything else on this? Because I'm going to get to point number 2 now. And point number 2, number 1 is authority. Number 2, and this is, what's he talking about? This is basically how to grow business today and make a lot of sales. Number 2 is generosity. So I'm a huge fan of this book right here, Bob Burg, Go Givers, Sell More. I talk about it all the time. This is how business gets done, right? Is that right now, marketers have created a consumer environment that has never been more unfriendly, more skeptical, more resistant to being sold to. You can use this to your advantage. If you lead with generosity, how can you give away what other people are stingy with? Right? How can you make it? And when I talk about what do you give away, right? You want to give away the things that are going to lead to more proximity. In college, one thing I studied, or I did a lot of research around, did some presentations and work on this, academic work on this, was kind of this argument of quality time versus quantity time. And a lot of times, so my thesis was like, ended up being that, busy parents use, well, I spend quality time with my kids, and they use that as an excuse to justify their unavailability. Sorry, that was ouchy for me too. But yeah, what we find is that there's just a magic to proximity, being together in the same space. So in other words, driving with your kids to the store, like, it matters. It really makes a big difference. And same thing with customers too. Spending time with you normalizes and it makes them feel safer around you. That it's not going to be, they don't want to be sold at. They don't want to be manipulated. They don't want to be taken advantage of. And unfortunately, it's none of our fault. It's the crappy marketers out there that have ruined it. The waters are overfished. And so as a result, here's how we win is we make it just ridiculously easy for people to get to know us personally. And when they get to know us personally, they like us. They like the story behind what we do. They like the people. They like the culture. They like our, and again, leading with generosity, leading with generosity makes it ridiculously easy for people to get to know us and spend time in our world. So what can you give away, that other people are afraid to give away? And it doesn't have to be something that's costs you money. I would argue against trinkets, and tchotchkes and stuff like that. What I would recommend is, maybe it's someone on your team that, is a little bit more entry level, but they're very good with customers, right? And so how can you get them to be of more service? Right? How can you also maybe even rise above in the eyes of your consumer? So when you, old school is, well, this is us and those are the competitors and we're better than the competitors and blah, blah. We don't talk about the competitors because we don't even want you to know about them, right? That's old school. New school is like everybody knows it's really easy to get a list of of SEO agencies in a town, right? And so just acknowledge that and just say, well, listen, these guys are really great for XYZ. These guys are pretty fantastic at this. These guys do a lot of new construction. These guys do whatever. Yeah, and for us, so now when you kind of take more of a consumer reports energy to how you communicate, like that is like, man, that's really cool of you. Like it really is a consumer. Like I go, I feel like, it's not, you're not going to just try to convince me that your way is the only way, but that you're willing to acknowledge other solutions out there. I do that. I say, listen, I don't do paid ads. If you want to do paid ads, you're welcome to do that. Here's who that would be good for. And that's not in my zone of genius. I work with this audience. I'm not afraid to niche myself as well, because there's that adage, the riches are in the niches. So anyway, boy, did I start kind of going into into a bunch of charted water but we were talking about generosity, right? And so think of the thing and maybe just make it a mental exercise, or ask your teams, what can we be doing to make it ourselves more accessible by giving away that thing that is going to encourage them to want to spend more time. Maybe it's making recommendations or referrals. Maybe it's what I'm going to get to. Number 3 is the biggie. And that's, again, kind of alluded to in the title, is leveraging platform and specifically possibly podcasts, right? But I'll kind of go through all of the thinking around that. Any thoughts on generosity or again, I'd say accessibility to earn that proximity. And I would love a case use, by the way, based on, Blair, go giver. Richard or Stieg or Gina or anybody else. So what do you do? And maybe I could use that as an example of maybe an idea of how I would leverage this concept of generosity. Give me a challenge.
I'll go. I'm Rich Crum. I'm with ValeSun, and we're basically a professional services group that builds back office software applications in the cloud for businesses to track and collaborate and work together better, I guess. I believe in all this, but it's like, in the B2B world, how does that work? How do you leverage videos and things like that?
B2B is my specialty. Yeah. So again, it's, and you're really, especially if you have higher ticket stuff, again, when we start talking about platform and podcasts, it's a dream come true. It honestly is. Now in your case, right, is, I'm a huge fan of reducing friction when it comes to sales, particularly when we talk about B2B. It's, what we want to do in sales is you always want to stack a pattern of yeses. And so it would be inappropriate on a first date to say, you want to meet my parents or let's get married. It's too early, but yet most salespeople do that. They push too hard, too fast, and they're afraid to invest in the relationship. Now they're afraid because they work on commission, they want to get paid. And so it's tough, but what we want to do is we want to create an environment where you now have hundreds of people that know you, love you, trust you. And then it's kind of like having that inner core strength. Like life is just a little easier physically, in that regard, when we've, let's say you're a realtor and you've got, 400 or 500 professionals in your marketplace that when asked, who would you recommend to sell my house? And your name comes up, it's game, set, match. Like that's a great position to be in. So we kind of want to create that. And so we're going to invest into relationships. We want to make sure that we don't want to waste time, right? But we want to make sure we're investing the right time with the right people. In your case, it's like I see some people selling audits, or you might say something to the effect of, well, listen, let me do a little research for you. I'm happy to do that. Normally we charge for that. I'm just going to do that pro bono. Now, you're not going to spend thousands of dollars on this or whatever it is, right? Design it so that it sounds and it feels very valuable to the person that you're creating this for, but you've created systems so you can kind of crank this stuff out. So that's why things like introductions, highly valuable for the other person because could mean a sale for them, right? Or platform free publicity. That's one of those things. It's very low cost, high perceived value because the potential of what it is that we're giving them. So I would be thinking in terms of what can we give away that doesn't really cost us anything, honestly. It's like, giving away a free soda, when you buy the Happy Meal or whatever, right?
One thing that's been successful for us, like at conferences, is to have dream sessions that are sort of a non-threatening, hey, come brainstorm, have a dream session. I was just thinking, as you've been talking, is there some way we can promote that more widely outside of a conference environment? Or how would, I don't know, that's what we kind of give away that's worked for us, to get people engaged.
Listen, I'm a huge fan of, hey, I may have some introductions. I may have some ideas for you. Let's grab 30 minutes and see if I can help out in any way. I mean, it may or may not make sense for us to work together, but I'm happy to help, right? And so what I'm doing there is, I'm just open. How can I help? I don't want to waste my time with people that aren't qualified. If they are qualified and they're like in my demo, like, absolutely, I'm going to invest in that relationship. And it does not have to be a sale, right? And I'm okay with that going into it. And that takes a lot of courage to do that. But when you have that attitude, it relaxes everybody. And now we can have a real, like, hey, we're just like golfing together, or we're just, sharing a glass of wine together. We're just blah, 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 blah. Like we're both, professionals in this industry or whatever, in your case, B2B, right? And so, lead with, that value, that service, disarm them by saying, yeah, it may or may not make sense for us to work together, whatever, but love to see how I could help. Right. And so now people are kind of coming into that conversation a lot more relaxed. And now you can, just explore what it looks like. Find out, most importantly, right, is we want to find out what their needs are or what their pain points are. And their main pain point might not be something I can help out with immediately. It might be something different. But if I know somebody that I could say, so for example, like for us, when we work with clients, generally we're looking for higher ticket, consultants, people that are selling big ticket B2B stuff. I might go to their website and I'm like, oh boy, they need a little bit of a design and, web design. I don't do that. But I know several people that'd be happy to make a recommendation, referral to, naturally I've got a relationship, cross-pollination relationship with them as well. But that's, and the client, the person I'm talking with, they know that that's their main problem right now. Like, so I'm happy to make that referral. It's a great gift for them because like, I've vetted this person. Like I can legitimately stake my reputation on that recommendation. So stuff like that, right? Might be the outcome. It might be consolation prizes, right? So they don't necessarily want to hire you or pay for your service right now, but hey, why don't you come talk to my leadership team about, just kind of talking about, and that might be another opportunity to get you in the room and the right people. So we're constantly busy out circulating and growing our business. What we don't want to be doing is sitting in the office going, I'm not doing nothing right now. Like we got to stay active and busy and keep that momentum going. Our sales and marketing team as well, we need to keep them busy. So stuff like that. Again, making sure it's with the right audience. We don't want them, wasting time with, people that are just not qualified. But if they're qualified, oh yeah, man, it's full court press generosity.
Okay.
Like full court press generosity. I got to tweet that. So
Josh, I'll just watch your time.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about podcasts. Is that cool? Okay. So we have tested a lot of stuff when it comes to generosity. I have never seen anything, and we've tested a lot of stuff. We've tested live streams on LinkedIn. We've tested referrals, recommendations, free reports, free audits, free all this stuff, right? And none of that stuff really moved the needle because here's where a lot of that stuff fails. When you are reaching out and you're the one that's initiating a relationship, that other person is going to ask themselves one question. What do they want? What I know they're blah, 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 free audit, free report, free consultation, right? What do they want? They want a sale. And so that's where, so we kind of like we want to figure out what their angle is, and then does it lead to a sale, right? So when you lead with something like, hey, we have a small audience, but they're very, qualified. They're pretty amazing people. Listen, we work with law firms. We work with blah, blah, blah. We'd love to celebrate you in front of our audience. It's amazing who you can get to show up to an award show when they're being recognized. So we want to lead with generosity that feeds their unmet emotional needs. It could be significance. It could be generativity, right? Hey, professionally, I just have a mandate that I want to help up and coming, sales managers, whatever, in this industry. I want to do that. That's part of, where I am professionally right now. And that's who you sell to. It could be legacy. They want to be known for something. Could be thought leadership, right? So we want to appeal to that thing that they want, right? And so we can go back to like Tony Robbins, like 6 basic human needs, right? And you can hit a lot of these with a podcast, specifically folks wanting to be known for what they do. So it's very easy to say, I would love for you to be a guest on my podcast. So I was at the Inc. 5000 conference, and when I meet someone, I say, what do you, tell me what you do. And then they tell me, I get excited. And I'm like, holy crap, I would love to feature you on my podcast to my audience, right? They don't know anything about who my audience is. They don't know anything about me, but they're always like, yes, I would love to do that, right? So what am I getting? What am I getting selfishly? I'm getting time with them. And in that time, I hope to build a relationship together. It may mean a sale, it might not. And I am cool with either outcome. I don't need it to be a sale, because statistically, what I do know is about 20% are going to become a customer. And so I'm totally cool with the consolation prizes I get from the 80%. And then the 20% just happen to pay for everything. Consolation prizes are all those, other things you get. So how do you start a podcast? It's so much easier than you think it is. There's so many tutorials and stuff like on how to do it on YouTube or whatever. A Zoom call. This is a podcast if we wanted it to be. So we want to get over this concept, this idea that it needs to be like Joe Rogan or, whoever, right? Smartless, my new favorite podcast, guilty pleasure. But it doesn't have to be that at all, right? It could be totally nerding out for 15, 20 minutes. And you could get that's the thing about podcasts. It could be, typical media is a mile wide, inch deep. Podcasts, an inch wide, a mile deep if you wanted to. And you can ask really specific nerdy questions. Get this, that you would ask on a discovery call anyway. And so if all you did is generally I ask about the same 4 or 5 questions, and I would not do longer than 20 minutes, honestly. I say from a perspective of content that gets absorbed, consumed, and also cost benefit analysis, like, how long it's going to take you with this person. It doesn't really provide them a whole lot more value to make it an hour long as it does 20 minutes long. If you can make them feel special and appreciated in that 20, 25 minutes, that's really the primary objective. So in podcasting, I've been teaching this for a long time, and the average podcaster has dreams of building a big audience. And now they're working with stamps.com, and they can do a read of a commercial, for stamps.com or MailChimp or whatever, right? That's a reference. But it's that in my opinion is tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. The average podcaster, 90-80% of them will never get to that level where they'll make any kind of money from ads. The average podcast has way under 1,000 listeners. The average podcast has about 100 or under listeners, but we do it anyway. And the reason we do it is because there is an audience for it. And particularly, again, where we're getting super nichey. And boy, you think about the value of that hyper niched audience. Like if you're getting really geeky about, particularly in the B2B world, right, where you can get that, you think, well, who would listen to this? People who buy my product, that's who would listen to this. But even if that's a bonus, because you're really there in service of the guest who you're celebrating there, and you're using that to deepen the relationship. So again, you're constantly inviting them to, schedule, again, assuming the value is high enough, right? Now, among our B2C business owners here, it's a lot tougher, and it may not make sense you can't really recognize a consumer for just being an awesome person. Great. Now I want to come paint your house. Like that's a little tougher, but you could do this for strategic partners. And this could be Awesome. Right? So now you've created a platform. You're just like, you think about who your best referral partners have been historically. Go find a bunch more people like them and say, hey, this is all about celebrating. And then what do these people all have in common? Right. And that's what you create it for. So like, if you go to, I'll give you, you could take a look at like on our website, upmyinfluence.com. And then it says like podcasts. And then you hover over that and it'll say like, here's 50 plus shows. These are 50 of our clients that you can see kind of some of the examples that we use of some of the clients that we partner with. But that would be an example, of how they've defined who their audience is and who they want. So think about, there's this concept called the Dream 100. And the Dream 100 is who are the 100 people that you would love to build a relationship with, design a podcast and invite them to be guests. And what you'll find is that if you were to reach out cold to that list with like, hey, you want to get on a call and network? Like, you get maybe 5%. I mean, it's going to be tough. Or free consultations. It's just going to be really hard. Podcasts, you will probably do 5 to 8 times that volume easily. And now you're getting time with them. You're beginning with an act of service. And then this is really important. When the podcast is done, very simple, say, that was great. Here's what else I'm going to be doing for you. Here's, this is going to go live. I'm going to share this, blah, 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 blah. Let's grab 30 minutes in a couple of days. I have a few ideas. I'm wondering if maybe there might be some opportunity for us to partner together in some way. That's it. And you will find, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they already know, like, and trust you at that point. Number two, the reciprocity needle is moved way over by then. You've led with so much generosity. There is no way they are going to be the person that's going to say, yeah, I know you did all that stuff, but nah, I don't want to talk to you anymore. They're not going to do that. Human nature dictates that we're just not that mock of some of us are. Most of us are not. All right. And so what we don't want to do is we don't want them to feel like this is for a sales purpose, right? It might be, it might not be. And again, that's where you have to be comfortable in your gut around that. But what you'll end up doing is you'll end up selling 20, 25% of those people anyway. It's just natural because you picked them very specifically for a purpose, for a business purpose. You're the one who designed this relationship here. So I would pick people that have budget, have the ability and desire to pay. That's who you want in the room with you. All right, I better stop and answer questions. And by the way, there is a, Blair, I hope I've got, if you go to upmyinfluence.com/free, there's a free, and there's, you don't have to buy anything. It's like, if as long as you're, listen, if you're on this call, just do the scholarship. It's $0. You don't have to, you don't have to give me any money to like whatever, but like there's an intro course you're welcome to go through. And it's totally free. Even if you're doing more, because I say, listen, you need to be doing under 250K a year. You're fine. I gave you the blessing. You're welcome to do that. So again, upmyinfluence.com/free. Questions about anything, because I covered a lot and I kind of, some of this is pretty vague.
What was, this is Steve Gravel, by the way. I do cybersecurity. I'm the guy out in Satellite Beach.
Yeah.
My company is based in Denver, which is why I'm on this group here. So I moved out here a little over a year ago because of COVID. My work is now on Zoom, and my wife and I decided we could live somewhere nice and warm. Well,
yep.
Like she liked to say, we'll dream about the mountains and live at the beach as opposed to the opposite. So my question was actually really quick. There were 3 stools. What was the third stool? Did I just kind of miss it? Is that the
platform? Podcast? I forgot to label it. It's platform, leveraging platform. So platform,
okay.
And we all have access to platform. Even if you don't have an audience, if you're a part of a group, I was at a conference and I was a member of this group and I knew this other person, kind of a person I wanted them to know who I was. I went live to that group. It's not even my audience. I'm just a member of that group. And I'm like, hey, I'm on the ground at so-and-so and I'm a fan and I wanted to chat to so-and-so. So I'm just like grabbing I asked him ahead of time. I said, would you mind if we just did a quick promote, thing, just kind of promoting the event or whatever? Of course, they're going to say yes. And I'm going live to this group that I'm a part of. Now, you can't sell, but that's okay. I'm just building FaceTime with that person. So does that make sense? So in your case, but it's platform, leveraging platform. Specifically, I'm a big fan of podcasts, but again, you can use other things. Podcasts just happen to work very, very well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, cyber, by the way, that is a really good industry for this because it's a very noisy space. I get spammed all the time. And that's your competition. But here's the thing, though, they've ruined it. They've made it difficult for great service providers like you and your company to just get a word in edgewise. Everyone's a little bit more, oh boy, here comes another email from a cybersecurity firm or whatever. And IT is generally those are the worst offenders at being really spammy. So when you're in those spammy industries, a lot of service industries, just like roadside, street spam kind of junk. When you're in those kind of spaces, you really got to lean on the relationship, in my opinion.
Megan, Brooke, you two have been quiet. Brooke is the painter, by the way.
Oh, hey.
Megan's in emergency services.
Wow. What kind of emergency services? You mean like?
Ambulance and EMS providers. So for us, it's interesting because oftentimes most scenarios in each of our divisions, we're not selling to our end user.
No.
So it's
no.
That's the lawyer. The lawyer does that.
Yeah, right. So for you, it's all about really investing into those relationships and just say, our goal is to get 50 solid referral partners. And we're probably going to have to talk to 100 to 150 people in order to really get that and invest into those relationships. Lead with promoting them first. It shows a lot of trust when you do that. And the people, wow, even people that might be perceived to be somewhat competitive, I'm okay with promoting them because I'm not the be all end all. I'm the right solution for the right person at the right time, but I want them to know, hey, I'm kind of above it all. Like I'll refer anybody. So yeah, and Megan, your case, great opportunity to deepen relationships with referral partners or just, users that are like, yep, call these guys. And so you want people talking about you all.
Started is by pain point. So when you said that earlier, our business was started off of a pain point and carrying a pain point, and that's often how we've,
wonderful
other areas.
Yeah, wonderful.
Any other questions as we work towards wrapping up? Brooke, Gina?
Brooke, I was going to say, I think that relationship is in your avenue as well, or in your bailiwick. We just talked about this, a month and a half ago, about how she's kind of engaging with her partner network and stuff like that. I think this is right up your alley.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. It's speaking right to me. I think you're right. Cause we're new construction. So we are business to business builders.
Oh man. Yeah.
But we also deal enough with their homeowners that content like that will just introduce them to us as well.
Who are the movers and shakers? Who can you trust? Like who's like, tell this, ask them. I love this question. What's the thing that you wish your customers or your audience knew more about you that maybe they don't hear enough? Like, I love asking that because it's like, man, the instant response you'll get from them is, thank you so much for asking that, because we really care about X, right? And then they go right into their passion, and they feel so like this goes also like refresher, take a refresher on, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, Influence People. People, when you make people feel special about themselves, it's like, it's the greatest gift. And if that's all I did, and I'll tell you that this, for those of us who are intimately involved in sales, it makes your day-to-day so much easier too. When your mindset is, who do I get to serve today? What good, how much generosity can I give today? Just, again, trust that the process works. You will make money with it, right? But when it's like, who can I sell to today? That's tough. Emotionally, that's tough. So it's less taxing if, again, we're just in that mindset of, just who can we serve today? What good can we do? And the natural byproduct of that is going to be sales.
Thank you. Any final questions or thoughts or anything for Josh before we wrap up?
And
So
happy to help out too. If you want to grab 30 minutes, listen, love to deep dive. If I can come up with any other ideas, thrilled to do so. If we never work together, I'm totally cool with that. I obviously eat my own dog food. I lead with generosity. Here's the thing, like where you plant your seeds is not necessarily where you reap your harvest. How many of us have had business from someone that's like, well, how did you hear about me? Well, so-and-so recommended me. Yeah, all the time. And so we want to create an environment that is rich for that. Everybody's just sending business to us because we're just a good steward of the community. We're constantly doing nice stuff and planting those seeds, and people just love us for who we are and what we do.
Thank you so much, Josh. I will, I started working with Josh. We started talking actually last year, started working with him. We started our own podcast here at Tab Denver West. I have had so many fun conversations. I mean, some, right, again, not business, but like just amazing, super fun, high energy conversations. And I mean, it's just talking. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? You're talking, you're asking questions, you're listening, you're following up, you're deep diving. So it is super fun and powerful. I'm happy to share my stuff, and I urge you to just reach out to Josh and learn a little bit more and see what, if anything, makes sense. But Josh, super informative. Thank you so much. We will see you guys next year here on BizSense with Tab. This is our last one for 2021. Thank you all so much. And once this recording is done, we'll get that out to you, as well as the Go Giver speed debrief there. Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody. We will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.